Nelson Mandela, an iconic figure in the history of the 20th century, was born on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Mvezo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. His birth name, Rolihlahla Mandela, given by his father, means troublemaker in the Xhosa language, foreshadowing the spirited and determined path he would embark upon in the years to come. Mandela's early life was shaped by the customs and traditions of the Thembu people, a proud and strong community. His father, Gadla Henry Mafekeniswa, was a counselor to the Thembu royal family. Despite the trials of colonialism and segregation that marked South Africa at that time, Mandela was instilled with a deep sense of justice, dignity, and cultural pride. His quest for education led him to the University of Fort Hare, where he studied law, but his involvement in student politics led to his expulsion. He then continued his studies through correspondence, eventually completing a law degree. His time in Johannesburg as a young lawyer exposed him firsthand to the brutal realities of apartheid, the institutionalized racial segregation and oppression that was deeply entrenched in South African society. Mandela's active resistance to apartheid started early in his life, as he joined the African National Congress ANC in the 1940s, becoming increasingly involved in the struggle against racial discrimination and the injustices inflicted upon black South Africans. His passionate commitment to ending apartheid led to his role as a key figure in the ANC, advocating nonviolent resistance initially. However, in the face of the government's increasingly repressive actions against peaceful protests, Mandela and the ANC recognized the necessity of armed struggle. This realization eventually led to Mandela's imprisonment in 1962, where he would spend 27 years of his life, becoming the symbol of the anti-apartheid movement and a global icon for justice and equality. During his imprisonment on Robben Island and later in Pollsmoor Prison, Mandela's resilience, moral fortitude, and unwavering commitment to his principles earned him worldwide admiration and support. His release in 1990 marked a turning point in South Africa's history, signaling the beginning of the end of apartheid. It always seems impossible until it's done. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination, for to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. I am fundamentally an optimist. Whether that comes from nature or nurture, I cannot say. Part of being optimistic is keeping one's head pointed toward the sun, one's feet moving forward. Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice, all for the freedom of their people. There is no passion to be found playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. There is nothing like returning to a place that remains unchanged, to find the ways in which you yourself have altered. To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. As we let our light shine, We unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. I dream of an Africa which is in peace with itself. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden, but never extinguished. What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. It is better to lead from behind and to put others in front, especially when you celebrate victory, when nice things occur. You take the front line when there is danger. Then people will appreciate your leadership. I detest racialism because I regard it as a barbaric thing. Whether it comes from a black man or a white man, I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. Freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another. I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. We must use time wisely, and forever realize that the time is always ripe to do right. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. As long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest. There is no easy walk to freedom anywhere, and many of us will have to pass through the valley of the shadow of death again and again. Before we reach the mountain top of our desires, we must strive to be moved by a generosity of spirit that will enable us to outgrow the hatred and conflicts of the past. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is. We can change the world and make it a better place. It is in your hands to make a difference. I was not a messiah, but an ordinary man who had become a leader because of extraordinary circumstances. Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is the protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life. To be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. A fundamental concern for others in our individual and community lives would go a long way in making the world the better place we so passionately dreamt of. There is nothing like returning to a place that remains unchanged to find the ways in which you yourself have altered. I was made by the law a criminal, not because of what I had done, but because of what I stood for, because of what I thought, because of my conscience. I stand here before you not as a prophet, but as a humble servant of you, the people. I dream of the realization of the unity of Africa whereby its leaders combine in their efforts to solve the problems of this continent. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all. I am the captain of my soul. We must use time wisely, and forever realize that the time is always ripe to do right.